I just saw an article the other day. It was about Jeff Bezos and was talking about how he runs his meetings. He was talking about, first of all, he says if a meeting is not messy, he doesn't like it. It's no good. Like, it should go over time and, get deeper into a discussion than they had planned, even if that means they're running over the allotted time. And I said, okay, that's kind of interesting. I could see that. And apparently he also begins with the least senior person in the company. So he hands out information that they're discussing at the meeting via paper copies. This is what I need your input on. He gives like 30 minutes, I think, for everyone to read it. And then he starts with the least senior person in the room and says, I want your input first. Because he doesn't want to taint anyone's feedback with what the boss or the owner feels. He wants honest feedback, and he works his way up. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. And I said, Joe Daniers, an entrepreneur and business owner, how do you feel about that?
There's some value in that. Like, taking someone and not biasing what they say during a meeting, although it's probably the least valuable piece of information that you get.
I could see that. I could see that.
It's probably petty. It's probably complaints. It's probably something that can't really do much of. But it gives someone sort of the satisfaction of feeling heard. Even if it's not, can't execute it, can't do anything with it, it gives someone the feeling that they were able to voice their concern.
Well, do you see any value in if there's someone that is maybe fairly new to the whole company or ideas, that they're kind of almost fresh eyes, or not really an outsider anymore, but more so an outsider, that maybe they see something that the others don't?
It's assuming a bunch of things. Like, when you have a meeting, how much of the meeting is like a constructive? I freaking hate meetings. They're the absolute worst. Only because...
Oh, he did say, like, he likes going over and getting deep discussion, but there are also talking points to make sure they don't go too far off subject.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If it's constructive, like, those are the best kind of meetings, where somebody actually, takes an eyeball to something and gives an unbiased, not like saying what you think the person wants to hear, saying things that actually have some value. And how many, like, least senior people are going to take the risk of saying something that has actual value? You know what I mean? It's more likely to be something like, okay, it's more for the person saying the thing than it is about, like, changing the structure of a machine based on that person's input, who has about 30 seconds worth of experience on something. So yeah, if it makes,
you think he does it just to make that employee
it's just
feel
to make
good?
them feel better. It's not actually. It's like, oh, we took the new guy's thing and we made us better because of their 30 seconds of input.
He's like, let's just get that out of the way.
Yes, exactly.
And then us seasoned people will discuss.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm equally as cynical about the seasoned people, because they're probably in the exact same boat, where if you bring up constructive criticisms on something, it means changes happen and nobody wants changes. So meetings end up being like a token gesture of people saying things that don't mean anything or don't matter.
Kind of a
and
waste
it's only
of time.
like an emotional value where people think they're being heard.
Yeah, and you kind of have to make sure too, I've seen that a meeting, there's a point to it to be effective. I feel like we've all sat in those meetings where it was like, yeah, we all had these really great ideas that then will die when we all leave this room.
It's exactly right.
Yeah, it's like, what's our next step?
Because if it were that easy, if it were just the lack of a meeting and throwing out an obvious observation, then, the regiment of business would be super easy and anybody could do it. But the problem is, most of the distinct observations, like those obvious things, are hard to accomplish. And that's why, like, especially in the corporate world, it seems like, we'll use government as an example. Okay, everybody knows that government and healthcare and all of that stuff is, like, super obvious, right? So you have healthcare, you pay into, you need it, you're denied for something, and you're like, oh, that's a freaking problem, right?
Yeah.
So the observer's like, hey, you shouldn't deny a coverage during a surgery because of health insurance. And everybody's like, oh, we didn't see that. How's that? Why did we not see that? Because it's more complicated than the casual observer has privy to enough information to know how you solve that problem. And so, like, if it were that easy, like I said, the Jeff Bezos of the world would have already solved the problems that are internal, and those new observations are probably not light bulb moments for the company.
Yeah, okay. I just found that interesting.
It's good insight, though. Like,
Yeah.
if you truly take an outsider's view and they really don't have a dog in the fight and they really don't care whether it doesn't make their life better or worse, but they're like, hey, that should be different, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, we didn't see that angle. The problem is, like, most corporate, most companies in a corporate environment have a lot of smart people who do see angles. And a lot of those angles are riddled with impasses that make it more nuanced than something like a regular person would say, oh, that's a direct solve right there. And
so it could be like, interesting take, but in no way beneficial to
yeah,
us.
I'll just add it to a check mark next to my list of things I already knew.
Yeah.
Right? I'll put your check mark next.
Well, and then do you think, though, too, that the owner or the person running the meeting maybe could even use that opportunity to see any potential in that newcomer? Like, ooh, I like the way this guy thinks. I'm going to keep an eye on him.
And that's why I said it's good information.
Yeah.
Probably not very actionable, but very good information.
Yeah, like was this person not afraid to speak up,
Exactly.
to speak honestly, to notice
Give
things?
somebody confidence, newcomer to the table, that their voice was heard and they feel a sense of confidence coming out of it.
Yeah. How about the messy aspect of it where, he's like, oh, if it's deep discussion and we even went over time, but it was good. You like those kinds of meetings too, rather than, well, we stayed on agenda, everyone's good, have a good day kind of thing.
If there's an overall philosophy of messiness, then it's embraced by everyone. Sure, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But the problem is, in most corporate environments, messiness is not a very adoptable thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because messiness usually means that all people involved are affected. And a lot of those corporate environments do not like the messiness. Like, it's cool that we have messiness that means that I don't have to change or I don't have to do anything. But if that messiness means that I got to go, rejigger everything that I've got going on, maybe I'm not real.
Like, have you ever been in a meeting and it was going so well and you guys were just spewing these great ideas and you were like, let me call my next meeting and be like, we gotta move this. We are in really deep here and this is effective and this is needed? Or are you like, there's nothing that needs that, let's wrap it up?
In my experience with meetings, and I've had a significant amount of them, none of them have been actionable to require postponing something else. If they were effective, like every meeting that we're a disruptor, like we got to do this and everybody's on board and everybody's doing the logistics of doing that, then it is worthwhile.
Yeah.
But usually it's lots of emotion and lots of energy that dies after the exit of the meeting.
Yeah. And usually, too, I've seen things like I worked for a company, they would have board retreats where all the board members had a specific scheduled day that was like, clear your calendar that day. This day is going to be hardcore, deep diving, coming up with plans, executing things. It will be long, but that is scheduled. It's not like something just happened in that meeting and now it's become something else. You know what I mean?
Corporate retreats are bullshit. Total bullshit.
I had to help plan a couple of them. Well, just a little bit, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a measurer, so like you take a corporate retreat and you take the energy and cost invested and you weigh that versus the changes that happen because of it, and it is a negative freaking number. It is all for emotional appeal. There's no substance to that expenditure at all. It's all for the people to feel good about something rather than actually having something measurable.
It does very much give a sense of motivation. I think people feel motivated that all these great things are going to come about. But it would be interesting to go back and measure if they actually came to fruition down the road. That would be, I don't know how effective that is.
If you buy into manipulations, then it's probably pretty effective.
Yeah.
If it's base a ledger measurement, not very effective.
Have you ever sat on the board somewhere and had to go do something like that?
Oh yeah, I have, and it pains me.
You're in the room like, this is stupid. I don't want to be here.
I have relinquished board seats over stupid shit like that because it's not fulfilling for me. Right. So like when the carrot of that, like there's some people that enjoy the shit out of that. They like the ego boost and, the attention that they get and the environments. But I'm trying to say, what are we fucking doing here? Like I only got a limited amount of time. I'm spending on this. What the hell am I getting out of this? And it's always, person like me, it's for naught.
It's very much like a full day of a class. Like you're sitting in class and everybody's just talking like they're important and have these ideas
for them,
and
not for change at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, if I could mass delete something from practice, that would be one of those things.
Would you maybe just do it differently? Like if somebody called you in and they're like, Joe, we're hiring you as a business owner to come and meet with our employees and make this more effective. Would you be like, well, first thing I'm going to do is not that? Or would you be like, all right, well, we can have a meeting or a retreat, but it's going to look way different?
I wouldn't. I would do it for the sake if I was being hired to do it, but I wouldn't do it because of, how much of an effect that I would have in doing. Because I just don't believe in it. So the discussion we have is, sort of like a supply and demand deal. Like the things that you value are usually the things that are most scarce. Right? The things that are easy and attainable and infinite, right? We don't absolutely value. So in those infinite worlds or spectrums, you have to do a fair bit of manipulation in order to get them to function. So let's just say, let's do an example. So the other day there was a threat of a snow day, right? Mm-hmm. And tons of people were so excited about the prospect of not going to school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this parlays on the whole not going to work thing for holidays, right? And why is that? Why is it something that is so valueless that you look forward to something that you don't have to do, rather than people who made great sacrifices to go to a school when it was scarce and you weren't allowed to do it, or it was highly costly, where you would climb a mountain full of snow and get a snowmobile and hire a dog sled team to be able to get there. If you were being prohibited from doing it, you would break down barriers to be able to do it. But when it's free and it's infinite and I'll just go tomorrow, we don't value it. So it's like, 3 things of snow, let me not do that. So we're culturing a bunch of like really self-centered, spoiled people, right?
Well, it did. Yeah. It became a privilege. It went from a privilege to you have to.
Yes.
You're required to.
Right.
And they don't want to do something they're required to do. They want a break.
That's exactly right. So that's almost like the, you have the corporate getaway, right? Uh-huh. Right? What are we really doing there? What is the purpose and point of that? If it's manipulation, it's keeping the culture of the powerful, right, in a position where they justify their own existence because of something that's total fiction, absolutely no fiction. You don't. In the rule of the marketplace is that you have a thing and it has value, and you have what you're willing to do for that value, right? Mm-hmm. In a valueless infinite system, you got to like manipulate it into feeling like it's something that you want to do. So how do you manipulate kids into going to school? Right? Because I tell my kid all the time, like when he feels like skipping or he's hoping for a snow day, I'm like, you could just drop out right now and not get any schooling whatsoever. And then figure out whether or not that's a good decision or a bad decision based on what now you're prohibited from doing if you don't go to school. And you can contemplate that right now when there's 3 snowflakes falling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard kids be like, I hope I don't ever have to go to school again. I'd be like, well, then don't. But you're going to be bored, number 1, because everybody else is in school. Number 2, you're not going to know anything that they know. You're probably not going to read very well or be able to solve
the worst thing we can do is
and
give something to someone for free. Because immediately when you do that, it's not valued.
Yeah.
Gave away classes to people about technology, and the seat was free and nobody showed up. I made it $20 and I had a full class. Why? Because the trade of you had to sacrifice $20 to be there. The people who were willing to be there said, I'm going to be there. And because they had something invested, actually showed up. You make it free.
Yeah.
And now it's...
Oh, yeah. And I even saw that too when we would have events and things like that for the business. And you put all this time and effort and money into planning an event. And if it is free to your whoever, your clients, your whatever, they may or may not show, and you're paying regardless. Whereas it's like, hey, no, there's a limited number of seats and it costs this much. They're like, oh, okay, well, let me pay. Even if they don't think they can make it, they're going to pay just to cover it, and then you're not out, whether they come or not.
Yeah, and if you ever take in a meeting with normies versus decision makers, they're two separate things, right? The decision makers are really paying attention to the time they spent, what they talk about, versus normies who are all over the place. And it is not for an express purpose, and they don't have an accounting for time or expense for holding it. So like there's almost two different worlds that I've observed and witnessed. I hate freaking normies meetings. I hate it. Because it's 90% about shit and 10% about something they could loosely justify having gotten together and the expense of having gotten there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that was more for you than for an explicit purpose. So, meetings suck.
I could see that. Probably why I had to plan so many over lunch and get lunch, because why would they give up their actual working time? They're like, I give you a lunch
Yeah, to manipulate them by giving them a carrot in order to be there.
Yeah.
And it was more about the lunch than it was
It was like, I'm taking a lunch break anyways. I'll come to your meeting. Not,
That's right.
Hey, this is so important. I better carve
might as
out
well
a
say,
chunk of my
come to
day.
my meeting and I'll give you $100, right?
Yeah.
That's just, it's the same thing. Like, how many people will show up if you gave them zero versus had to give them $100 to be there? Are they very valuable if you had to bait them in order to get there?
I see it. That's all I got.
All right, so let's talk OnlyFans. Have you ever done OnlyFans?
Oh my God, what a coincidence. I was just talking about this with someone earlier this week.
Okay.
I've never done OnlyFans.
You don't have an OnlyFans channel?
No, I do not.
Would you ever?
I think any consideration of starting an OnlyFans went out the window when I was told how graphic it is. Like, I thought it could just be any little thing. If you find somebody interested in it, it could be risque, but not much more than that, then you could benefit. But I'm hearing it's like, no, it's basically porn, and that's what you're getting paid for. And so I'm like, well, I'm not doing that, so no. Well, why? You don't think? Would you do an OnlyFans?
Probably not, but I don't have the packaging for something that's OnlyFans. But every once in a while, like every couple of months, you'll hear about somebody who made, this one girl $43 million in the year in 2024 for doing OnlyFans. And then after
$43 million?
$43 million from OnlyFans. And then you have this whole rush of girls who know they can pull it off and can emulate what they see there and make millions of dollars for doing OnlyFans.
I hear that's rare, like so rare.
Yes, but you will see one instance of somebody making it on OnlyFans doing a certain thing, and you get tons of girls that go there thinking that they're going to be the next 43 million in a year OnlyFans person.
Do we know what the girl making 43 million is doing on OnlyFans?
Oh, yeah.
Is it like
Yeah, it's up there.
like you're basically Jenna Jameson kind of just
Well,
on
no,
an online
it doesn't
platform?
have to, like, if you have the right setup, right? You are blessed with the right stuff, right? And you do it well, you can make a bunch of money doing it.
You're still just a porn star, are you not?
Listen, the illusion of having that type of work be the oldest industry on the planet. We talked about feminism before, right? Women hold all of the cards. They have complete power because of the biological response that men have to something that they want to experience or witness or whatever, right? 100% have all the power play. Now, can you begrudge someone for using what you know will sell and selling it to men who will willingly pay for something?
Yeah, no. And let me be clear. I don't fault someone for doing that. If that is something you were into and you were making a buttload of money, by all means, you do you. I am not comfortable doing it in front of strangers, but if you are and you make money, okay. I'm just saying, but let's call it what it is. You are an internet porn star.
So how do you feel then about women and the feminism movement using sexuality to benefit them, but then sort of like denying the fact that sexuality using for power and whatever? So I'm a meritocratist, right? So whatever you can do trade-wise that is based on authenticity is fine. What about people who use their sexuality to get things like power positions or CEOs or marketing people, and they all the while only use their sexuality and not the merit of what they do to get to those places.
Sleep their way to the top,
exactly.
so to speak.
Exactly. We almost had a vice president to become president that slept their way to the top.
Is that true?
It's true.
How do you know that's
It's true.
It's true?
It's true.
How do we know it's true?
Google
Okay, I'll have to
the
look into
relationships that promoted and launched Kamala Harris to the top. And there was a segment where you've seen the pictures of Kamala with, what was it, Montel?
I'll say I've seen her. She dated Montel Williams.
Yeah.
But that's the
only. Using her sexuality to get to a certain point and then springboarding it along the way. But at a certain point, you have to sort of deny that you use your sexuality for a portion of it. Like, if it were based on merit, would you have gotten to the place that you got?
But here's the only beef I have with that, is people want to trash talk a woman for doing that, supposedly, but she didn't do it alone. What about all the men that hired her for that?
Well, authenticity would say, if she wouldn't have done that, would she have gotten to that place? And the answer is no, she wouldn't have gotten to that place. It was the springboard that got her to step 5, and then she started doing the more traditional methods, right? So, but if you play that card, right, you get that scrutiny. It's part of the gig, because you jumped ahead of people who were better, smarter, and more capable than you were, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't want to, I got Hawk Tua, for instance. Let's just say Hawk Tua, she is able to put together sort of like a whole physics trajectory, right? She launched herself to prominence based on her sexuality, ahead of a ton of smart people, but she used a tool in her arsenal to be able to get there. Now, does she get to a certain point and want to deny the fact that she skipped a bunch of steps using her sexuality to get there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so she has a podcast now, and I've never listened to it. It did sort of get served up to me on a YouTube thing once, and I didn't watch it, but I read what the subject matter was. And it's still just very sexual, crude, funny discussions. And yeah, that's all she is based off of. That was it. She made a sexual joke, and that hurled her into this realm that she probably wouldn't have been in.
Is that fair when you compare her to someone who did it the legitimate way and didn't get the appreciation from the marketplace and didn't get to have the notoriety to say the smart things that they had? Is it fair then that she used her sexuality to get to a point ahead of someone who actually had the merit to be able to solve problems, and that person is making $20,000 a year, and the dumb girl who decided to prostitute herself for the sake of sexual innuendo is making $1 million? Is that fair to that person?
Well, I mean, I don't really fault the creators of it, the people, whether you have the girl that is smart and working hard and trying to stay presentable, and then you've got the one that is like, I'm just going to use my sexuality and do whatever I have to do to get to the top. I don't really fault either of them.
Why, though?
Because I think if they have a way to do something and the way they want to do it, they have the right to do that.
All right, so if I have a way to buy a congressional seat for $100,000 and I become a congressman because I had a tool in my arsenal that I could pay for it, would you look down on someone who paid their way to get somewhere?
Do I see them in a different light? Of course. But to me, the responsibility or the fault or the blame is more so on those allowing it to happen as well. You know, like, sure, you're going to be morally corrupt. Absolutely. That's obvious. So I can feel some kind of way about that. But can I not also feel some kind of way about the people that all let you do it? That all, we talked about when we were talking about immigration, and well, some people say they're going to come in and they're going to steal our jobs and they're going to work for less money. Well, why are you mad at them and not mad at the people hiring them who are giving them that job for less money? Quit hiring them and maybe they don't have a card to play.
Well, but that it's impossible to be able to restrict that. So if you take the vices of the populace, the populism of, whether we vote or we will lend a support. So if a bombshell blonde, right, becomes president because she was super hot, right? Are you going to blame the voters who, thought with their dick rather than their head?
Yes.
or
yes, I would like to.
But what does that solve? What does that do?
Oh, it's not going to solve anything. I'm just pointing out that we're the idiots that did it. Should she have used other merit? Maybe. But if she's that much of a bombshell and she's that gorgeous, even if she is not putting sexuality out there, she's trying to put out positive messages out there. You don't think those idiots that also thought with their dicks are going to be like, oh, yeah, but she's hot too. And I like that. And I'm into that. Even if she's not trying to, that happens.
For sure. I mean, we're surrounded by it. But you have this impasse between if you have 90% stupid people and you let them choose what they would choose, then the rest of us suffer the consequences for that mentality, because you're not going to get 90% of the people to go against their better interest, what they think is hot, what benefits them. So if everybody decided to just vote for the person that would give them $10,000, then you'd be like, oh, the guy that's just giving away free stuff got elected, but it's the fault of everybody. You can't take the interests of everyone and hold them accountable and dissuade them from things that they can't control.
But you think you can take the interest of the ones doing it and hold them accountable and sway them? The people that are
no, but you can levy the criticism against the fact that they are not there because of their reputation or their ability. Right? You can criticism and say they're only there because they're hot. 100%.
You could, but they'll be like, okay, I still have $40 million. Do you think I care if you criticize me? Clearly, I don't care enough that I am willing to do these things for money on the internet. Well, the difference is
I begrudge them because they are only there because they leverage their hotness, not because they are entitled to $43 million for any other reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't hold the people that would pay for something in that demand. I don't criticize them because I could have bet you before they did that if you did a thing, right, the populace would do that.
Well, would you look the same way on people in other professions that are similar, like just models in general, people that are modeling clothing or modeling products or event spokesmodels and things of that nature, where if they didn't look a certain way, they would not have that job? Would you say that's sort of on the same wavelength as the others, or would you see that differently?
So, like, we'll use football players, right? Mm-hmm. So you put all of your energy and your practice and you become a really good football player. You've really got one element to be able to realize prosperity, right? Either a football player, you're not going to go into finance, you're not going to go into business, you're not going to go do any of the, you're not going to become a singer, right?
Yeah.
You're a football person and you basically bet everything on that simple thing. So if you're hot and you're stupid and you're like, the only way I'm going to make it is become a model and I'm going to put all of my energy in becoming a model, right? Then I would say that's fair game. Because
Not that we're saying models are stupid. Just want to get that out there.
But if that was your thing and nobody's going to begrudge you because you bet all of your future on becoming, that thing. I only take exception when those people sort of like jump into a different.
Okay, so when they're using it to manipulate.
Exactly. Getting out of the vein of what they were, right? So if you want to, that if you go on OnlyFans and you make $43 million, it was one reason and it's accepted by all that is you. That is your identity.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do and make money.
The merit is you were eye candy that people were willing to pay for, and as long as everybody knew it going on, awesome.
But if someone's like, hey, it's my dream to do this occupation, I'm not getting anywhere with it, so let me go and gain a bunch of fame by putting my nakedness out there, and then I get attention, and now I have an in to go do this. Now that's a little different.
I begrudge then the person who, like, let's just say you or me. You're prettier than me. It's just a fact.
That's not true.
So we go in front of someone and I have the ability and you have the likability. And they choose you, right? Because you're hot. And now their stuff goes to shit because they went with the hot rather than the practical, like the thing that actually would make the thing happen.
Yeah.
I hold them responsible because they were thinking with their dick rather than thinking with their brain, right?
That's what I'm
saying. They are
responsible.
For sure. And so, when so long everybody knows their lane and know why it is that they got in that lane. And I hate the fact that those people are celebrated. I hate the fact that we pay homage to people who should be ostracized, like they should be pushed aside. That is not we in a meritocracy. We want all the smartest and best people to be doing things. You're on a plane, the pilot is the best pilot they could put in that cockpit, right?
Yep.
Not the hottest person, because you'd feel very disappointed if the hot person was driving the plane rather than the person that was more competent at driving the plane.
Yep. I feel like I keep going back to that comedian Matt Rife, who I like. I have nothing against Matt Rife. But let's be real. I feel like Matt Rife is as famous as he is because he's very good looking. It's not that he's a bad comedian. I find him funny. He does great crowd work and he deserves to be where he is. But did he get there through talent alone, or is it because he's so hot? And I feel like he was on OnlyFans. Did I hear that somewhere?
Maybe.
That might be a lie, but I feel like
surprised.
I really feel like I heard that he was on OnlyFans. I could be wrong, though. I don't know. I'll have to research that. But I catch what you're throwing. Yeah,
so those people who leverage the things that are immutable, like they were born with it and they use it and they make money doing it, it's fine by me. As long as you know why it is that you are popular. It's not because of your intellect. Like, there are people that write papers and do research and go to college for a bunch of years and they are known for their intellect, right? And that is their lane. They're not going into your lane and going on OnlyFans because they can write a physics equation, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of smarts in knowing what your lane is and capitalizing on that. If someone's like, hey, I'm not a physicist. I'm never going to be a scholar, but I got something I could work with. So let's capitalize on that and make it work for me and plan out my life using that. And again, it's not for everybody, but there's a game plan in that. And so that, I guess, is something. So
now, is there a denial? Like, let's use the ladies drink free in the bar. Right?
Yeah, I like that one.
Do you know that if you go there and drink for free, that you are a target to be hit on by boys who will show up because the ladies are going to be there in nice density?
Yes. Yeah.
And so when you're hit on, you really can't complain because you being hit on was the price for the free drinks that you're enjoying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's usually, it's either that or it's no cover charge for ladies. Everybody knows why they do that.
That's the point of this is the realization that you are only getting a benefit for your participation for that reason.
Yep. Yep.
Very few feminists will turn down the free drink or the free cover charge, right? Because it's a benefit.
Yeah.
It's only the downsides that we, protest about.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe this is just me. I never fully understood why women get so mad if they're hit on. Now, a man being disrespectful is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
If they are clearly drunk and sloppy and being rude and obnoxious and maybe not leaving them alone when they've already said to, totally different. I'm not talking about that. But I have seen women where a guy will come over and respectfully attempt to talk to them, buy them a drink, whatever. And all you have to do is say, no, thank you. Not interested. Just hang out with my girls tonight. Whatever. And they immediately go for that. Kick rocks. You're an ass. Blah, blah, blah. They get like angry and defensive. And I'm like, I don't get that. That's uncalled for me. Especially if you were in a situation that you got there for free because you knew that you were here to bring men in. Some people are going to say, oh, we're not going to use me to do that. Okay, well
bullshit.
Then don't go.
Then deny the benefit and pay your way in and pay for your drinks.
Yes.
And then when some guy comes up to you and say, no, I'm a paid patron here.
Yeah.
That then negates the hitting on that will happen. You can get instead of the yellow bracelet that gets everything for free, you get a red bracelet and you are paid patron.
Yeah, like I am off limits. I paid to be here. Don't freaking talk to me.
Exactly.
Fine. But yeah, don't absorb all the benefits and then be all disgusted if someone has the nerve.
Totally disgusted.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to go on OnlyFans. I'm going to sell my body basically.
Yeah.
And then when people pay attention to your body, like, I can't believe nobody takes my mind into account.
Or how about in the same vein, you go online, you benefit from using your body, but then you face consequences for it in another job, in your day job or whatever. If someone's like, listen, I don't want to hire you. I saw you doing nasty things on the internet. Then don't scoff.
Or even relationships. Like, how many
Yes.
guys want to be with an OnlyFans girl? I mean, really, like, it's the
Well, some
sacrifice-
idiots would be like,
Yeah,
oh.
for sure. But that's the sacrifice you make for the big benefit. Like, making the sacrifices and the benefits equal.
Like, listen,
Not-
you want to date the stripper, don't be mad.
When she's straight. Yes.
For other men.
You like the fact that she gets $1,000 worth of tips
Yeah.
every day,
That
but
a
you don't
guy
like the
can
fact
just-
that guys are giving her those tips?
You're telling me a guy can just walk in here, she smiles at them, and she gets stuff, and she did it with you, but she's going to do it to somebody else, and that's not okay?
Well, and I think the brokenness happens when young girls think that they're going to use your body for that money. And in every legitimate method, by selling their intellect or selling their ability, is going to pale to what they can get by just making themselves a materialistic, thing. And I think, again, when these $43 million OnlyFans people, the girls flock to OnlyFans, right? And take that risk when a majority of them make shit for money, but they make that sacrifice because of that deal.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think they think that it will just be a temporary thing. I'm just going to try it, or I'm
Go
just
make
gonna
a couple
do this.
million, and then I'll go back to normal.
Yeah,
thing.
it's like, or I'll put myself out there on the internet. I'll try it, and maybe you don't even benefit financially from it.
At all, but took the
you're-
risk.
Yeah, but you're still on the internet.
You got the consequence to
Yep.
go along with
and
it.
now someone's like, she's like, oh, well, I wanted to be a teacher, but I was struggling and not making ends meet, so I did OnlyFans, and then finally I got offered to be this great teaching position, and they're like, hell no, I just saw you on OnlyFans. You're not coming in here on our school. Well, whose fault's that then? It's not temporary. You on the internet. You naked
But
on
just
there
like
forever.
we hold society accountable for purchasing the vice, we also then hold society accountable for the judgment of having pursued the vice.
Yeah.
And so it can't be both ways. Either you don't hold accountable, right?
Yeah.
And you know that it's easier to sell drugs than it is to sell whatever, a legitimate product. But the drugs are way more lucrative. But if I sell the drugs, then I give up the legitimacy of doing it the right way. But then, like the guy that did it the right way, you're competing directly against them. And do you get to undo the fact that you took the shortcut and you had access to money that you wouldn't have otherwise had? And, and the forgiveness of being able to say, I go make my 43 million, but then I want to become a teacher. F you. There's a person that deprived themselves of the $43 million, went to school, did it legitimately. They deserved a job, not the person who sold themselves into vice.
I agree. But again, like we said, you've got to then hold accountable the people putting them in that position that are giving
how
to
though?
that vice.
Like you want to, but you're not going
There's
to.
too many of them
because it's too easy. Because there are far more people who would buy into the vice than the virtue. So you can't really hold them accountable if you know going into it. If I go into a job interview and I show my boobs, right? I have a benefit that if I went and showed my boobs, no chance that would give me an advantage. So if you do that, right?
Yeah.
You took advantage of something that I don't have access to.
And I feel like, too, you've got to be careful. I know this is a slippery slope as far as, like, victim shaming, but, like, if you go into a job showing your boobs so that you get the job, and then you do, and then all of a sudden you're sort of, like, sexually harassed in the workplace on a daily basis, and you're like, hey, I didn't sign up for this. Did you, though? Did you?
How is that victim shaming? That is the brand
because
that you
there
played.
are people that are going to say it doesn't matter what a woman wears. It's never her fault.
As long as she doesn't take the benefit of the thing that she's complaining about. The minute that you use that thing, you can't then deny that thing. If you got the job because of your boobs and then people notice your boobs, it's like me getting a face tattoo on there and say, why are you looking at my face tattoo? Why are you looking at it? Don't judge me by it.
Yes.
Stop looking at it, right?
Yeah.
You used it. You knew it existed. You knew it gave you benefit, and now you're benefiting from it. Now all of a sudden you can't like turn that thing off and say that's not why I'm here. I'm here because of my intellect.
Yeah.
I have more respect for the people who take the leverage item and shelve it. Right. So let's change the subject a little bit. OK. Let's just say you win the lottery and you got $100 million and you start a business and you don't want anybody to think that you started the business. The only way your business was because you won the lottery. So you take your $100 million and you throw it into a bank account that you don't have access to. And then you start the business and it's successful. Nobody could ever tell you that the only reason you made it is because you won $100 million, right? That's the way to do it. You take the thing that you had a strict advantage on and you made it in business in spite of not even using the thing. But once you use the thing, right, then you can't claim that it didn't contribute to your success. And you can't all of a sudden say, don't look at my $100 million. It wasn't part of it. I didn't do it because of that, right?
Yeah. I remember years ago, somebody said to me, they're like, you need to go into sales and you should be a pharmaceutical sales rep. And I said, why? And they're like, well, you can make so much money. They make a buttload of money. And if you're a pretty girl, you can make bank. Yep. And I'm like, but I don't know anything about pharmaceuticals. And they're like, well, you learn, you get trained, you learn, and then you sell it and people want to buy from a pretty girl. And then I thought, lots of money. And then I thought, but I don't want to push drugs on people. Like I don't want to just sell regardless of whether somebody needs it or not. And I started to have this moral dilemma of like, it's one thing to really put a lot into learning about it, studying it. I can't go in unprepared. I need to know what I'm talking about if it's something I care about. But is it something I can be like, I feel like I'm whoring myself out to push things on people that maybe they shouldn't have. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
But more importantly, you would have been using your sexuality to benefit yourself, and all the while knowing that you're not there because of your supreme knowledge of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
It's because young doctors are buying from the pretty girl that came in their office.
Yep.
And that was your relationship.
In fact, I think I was even more interested. They started with, oh, you have a great personality. You talk to people very well. You're friendly. You're not afraid to, sit down with someone and explain things. And I said, oh, yeah, good things, good things. And they're like, plus pretty girls do really well. And now I'm like, what? Now you cheapened it. Is that why you think I should do it? Because guess what? It ain't going to last forever. Thanks for the compliment. But at the time I was, I don't know, probably late 20s. Going to look a whole lot different in my late 40s and 50s. So then what?
And what if you put all of your energy and effort into something on a fleeting characteristic that wouldn't be with you for all time?
Yeah.
Then think about all of the anxieties that would come along with the only reason that you're successful at this is the thing that you can't control.
Yep.
Those are the OnlyFans people. That 43 million better last the rest of your life, because if you don't develop anything other than being a field goal kicker, and if it doesn't work out, you're screwed.
You can only inject and nip and tuck and use filters and lighting for so long.
Right.
And then here comes a new wave of younger, prettier girls. And what do you fall back on?
Yeah.
That's not a skill that is something that you can take forever.
And you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want some part of your success to be only attributed to a physical characteristic that you have no control over. You want to make sure that whatever you do is because of your intellect and your ability, because they can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And this is kind of another reason, too, that I'm almost like, screw those people that buy in to keeping that person doing that. Because, again, do you think that girl or multiple girls doing that were ever encouraged to do anything else but that? I've had people in my life that are like, oh, you're a cute girl, you should do this. You're a cute girl, you should do that. And I'm like, do I have any other freaking skills?
Exactly.
Or talents or abilities?
I think that you would be a good pharmaceutical rep, even if you weren't pretty, because you're smart, right?
Thanks.
Now, if you put on a wig and put on makeup to make it yourself ugly or not as appealing, and you went and did pharmaceutical, I've had way more respect for you because I know you didn't leverage something that not everybody had.
Yeah. Yeah. I could agree with that. Oh yeah, I've seen in different industries, not just pharmaceuticals, the sales rep will look a certain way. And I'm just like, I wonder if you would do just as well if you didn't look like that.
Yeah.
And can you fault them for using what they got? No, but it's not going to last. So you better have some skill behind that, hopefully.
It's when it's when you leverage that. So a guy that's 5'5", okay, versus a pretty 6 foot tall girl on the other side. Society rewards height, attractiveness. Mm-hmm. You have an extreme advantage over me. If we went into the same thing, you would have a strict advantage over success over me. Is that a fair to 5'5" bald guys?
Well, one, I think it depends on what you're going into. And two, I may
All right,
have...
so both of us are pharmaceutical reps, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I know my shit.
Yeah.
I did the due diligence. I know my shit about pharmaceuticals, and we go out. Who makes a better living at it, me or you?
I would
answer is
wonder.
you.
I would
The
wonder
answer is
if
you.
I would start off better, but you would have more longevity.
Would it be fair to me that something where I know more and I have better merit, that you would do better than me on the short term? And would I hang out long enough knowing that you're going to drop off and I have to outlive your attractiveness in order to make a living? That's not fair to 5'5" guys.
Maybe there'll be a lot of female doctors that are into that, and they're like, I didn't want the girl, I want a man.
That is not true. That would never happen. That's what tall, attractive girls say, and they're lying.
I'm not lying.
But would you leverage? Would you use it against me to outperform me?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, because me personally thinks you're nuts. That I would be like, I could see looks would be a selling point, but I am no like Megan Fox. I don't have that
So
much
you wouldn't
to
leverage it. You would not take advantage of the fact that you have a strict advantage over me.
In
Yes,
looks?
you would. Every single
Listen,
person.
if I have an advantage over you,
Yes.
I know that it is personality, that it is outgoingness, that it is enjoying the meeting.
If I could prove to you that was your height and your attractiveness and all the things were little like what you told yourself to feel better.
Listen, so
you made it because you were more attractive, period.
You just said I would be a good sales
would.
rep because I'm smart.
Yes.
But then in the same vein, you said, but you would only do better than me because of how
We're
you
using
look.
a hypothetical where I was smarter. This
Okay.
isn't real world. This isn't real world. You would probably be a better pharmaceutical rep in the real world than I would.
I don't know,
but
but I
I'm
would not,
saying
but okay.
if token Kelin, attractive and tall, going into a doctor's office, doesn't know anything about pharmaceuticals, and college-educated pharmaceutical person over here that did due diligence, and you would be more successful than me based on two things, your height and your attractiveness. That's the hypothetical. So separate these two things out.
Okay, so you're a business owner.
Yeah.
You work with computers.
Yeah.
Let's say there is a company that is a vendor for computer companies, and they both take meetings with you because they got something you need to start ordering. And one is a tall, beautiful, attractive sales rep, and
Kelin.
one is an average-looking guy.
Yes.
And you don't know anything about them other than what they look like.
Yeah.
Do you automatically, and be honest, have any sway or pull towards the
I have
two?
the disadvantage.
You have the disadvantage.
I have the disadvantage. Yep. Because we're human beings and we can't help it, but biologically gravitate towards people who are more appealing to us. It's not about information, it's about presentation. And if the person presents better, they could have worse information and be, I'm not going to say
Give it, like,
attracted
cut
to.
more slack, basically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I mean, it's true. And it doesn't even have to be to the extreme of very attractive and not attractive, but presentable. I mean, it's a soft skill and it's important, and it's things that I'm seeing more and more. I don't even think younger generations understand. Like, you don't go to a job interview in your sweatpants. That's ridiculous. And I think more and more younger generations not getting that, you know.
But if you're
it
built
is-
as a better presenter, I could do the 9s, right? And go up against you, and you could do 6s, and you would still outpresent me based on how you were born. I'm at a disadvantage across the board. And you would have more confidence in it because it would be supported by the masses and it would happen authentically. And I would just get to sit back and saying, well, I'm not going to be able to outdo her in any dynamic whatsoever. Anything that I could do better, like it's never going to outpace what you could do naturally.
How do you feel when people put a picture of themselves in their email signature? Do you think that is in any way them trying to gain that
Psychologically,
edge?
for sure. You don't see ugly people putting their pictures in emails. You don't.
It is interesting. I'm trying to think like,
And that's leveraging your
Every
appearance for
email.
advantage. And so long that you do that, like what happens like when you're, an aged person, right? You drop that, right? What's going to happen
Yeah,
to you?
somebody told me that they read a statistic one time that your email is like so many % more likely to be responded to if you have a picture.
Yeah.
People just see a human connection and they don't want to just disregard your email. Do you think it is just the human connection, or do you think it's how attractive they are?
100% how attractive. Like Golem would never put email picture in, right?
Yeah.
I would want to say, I need to type some words to overcome the fact that I don't have the picture and Kelin does.
Okay, so going back to that of I would have an advantage if it were on looks, do you not think, though, that you would outlast me? That I might have an advantage, but not for long, and your career could go longer?
It would be that sort of like normal people, normal looking people would dominate an industry where looks didn't matter. Okay, so if there's an industry dominated like pharmaceutical reps by all pretty people, then pretty people would go there, and then non-pretty people would go to a different one. I wouldn't enter an industry knowing that I have to serve 10 years and let all the pretty people be ugly, because the fact that there are more pretty people coming in after the current pretty people, I would never be able to outlast them. So in a pretty people market, I'm just not going to play.
I remember I got a real big ding to my ego a couple years ago. It was maybe a year or two before I moved away from the South. One of the things I like to do on the side is I do commercials, just either spokesperson or acting in a little local commercial or something of that nature. And I had done a commercial for a business years ago. Well, the company that shot that commercial is like, hey, that business is advertising again. We'd like you to come be in another one of their commercials. Great. Awesome. I get paid for it. It's super fun to do. Well, this time it was a family dynamic, and I was playing the mother, and there was a guy who was the dad, and there were little kids, and we were talking about this product. And when we're done shooting, which I was fine with, when they're done shooting, they explained to us that this is a series of advertisements of people in different stages in their life, and you guys are our midlife couple. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I'm playing midlife now? And I remember thinking, this is how it ends. This is
Wait till they call in the granny commercial.
I'm no longer I always used to say, one of my life goals was I wanted to be in a music video. And now it's I'll never be the love interest in a music video because now I'm the midlife mother. Mm-hmm. It's how, actresses, it's how it starts. And that's where all these women start injecting things and nipping and tucking things. And I'm not going that route. I'm just not.
Yeah, that's the setup for the psychosis of having, if you are leveraging something that fleets and trying to preserve that as long as possible, and there's an infinite amount of bombshells that are in their 20s, you will never be able to outpace your replaceability in the marketplace if that's the angle you play. So if I were giving advice and I was saying, hey, OnlyFans person, know that you're only making that money because of what you're willing to sacrifice for today. You better have a really good plan on the other side of this when you are no longer sort of pursued for that deal. You better have a really good plan of something completely different, because you're not going to be able to obtain what people thought attractive in you forever. Very fleeting.
Yeah. And it's almost, and it gets turned around, like you were saying, if the young, attractive woman gets the job over a guy who's more knowledgeable, it's almost like it will turn, though, because in our society, as men age, they're handsome or they're zaddies. Do you know the term zaddy?
I've never heard of zaddy.
Oh, my God. A zaddy is an attractive older man. So when a man reaches this stage in life that he is graying a bit and he's getting a beard and he's salt and pepper, he's a zaddy. Ooh, that's sexy and silver fox and attractive. Whereas a woman is just aged, older, mature. Then
you seem disappointed when you were enjoying those free drinks. When they have zaddy free drink and free cover, then I'll say all things have equalized. But deal with it as 1% goes back advantage in the other guy. You had 99% advantage on the onset.
Probably we should have that. We should have a bar where it's zaddy night.
Nobody knows that, though. Where did you hear that term? Give me the origin.
I've heard my girlfriends use it. I've heard people on the internet use it.
What's the Z?
I don't even know.
All right, listen.
It's like daddy with...
What?
I don't know where the Z comes
from.
Well,
I'm going to look it up.
It's like a sexy older man. Let's research how the term zaddy... Xenial? No. Is Xenial older or younger? And that's not even a Z.
A sexually attractive man, especially an older one who's fashionable, charismatic.
Let's look at images.
No, I don't want to see images.
So many people go for, Jeffrey, he's a zaddy. Click images, Joe!
No, I'm not.
Please!
No.
Just do it.
No, listen, I want, and I don't ever know if it's the etymology or entomology. One's bugs, one's words. But I'm going to say zaddy etymology.
Zaddy etymology.
The origin, a sugar daddy, 21st from Z as intensifier. As the Z is an intensifier.
Sugar daddy intensified. What adds the Z? Oh, that one said an alteration of daddy and son.
The origin of Z is unclear. It may represent the ultimate daddy or the Z of the alphabet. All right, things are too stupid.
Click images.
No, no. You're not looking at your
Zaddy.
your zaddy porn. Not gonna do that. So, all right.
I always say, my girlfriends and I always say, you know how I know I'm getting old is because I see father-son duos and the dad is more attractive than the son. And we're like, that's where we are. Those zaddies. It's a thing. Women don't get that. Why don't you Google attractive older woman and you know what you get? Nothing. Mature. Oh, you look good for your age. I love that. That's happening now. You look good for your age.
Listen, you've got a good 15, 20 years of using that attractive leverage. Guys get it for 5 or 6 years in that deal.
I don't know about that.
Yes, and barely. Like, by the time a guy gets to that point, he's established. And I'll tell you, women, it's more about the solid, responsible side of a zaddy than it is about the grayness. It represents...
It did say they're fashionable and well kept, and I mean, you can't be like some loser on the street and be considered a zaddy, I'm sure. It is, you're right. It's sort of the image of success.
Yeah, so after the girls trade all of their integrity on their OnlyFans, then they want to settle down for a zaddy who will take care of them because now they have nothing left to trade into the marketplace.
Oh, there's a commercial. What is it? I think it's Target. Oh, they are 100% capitalizing on the zaddy. It's a guy, I think he's supposed to be Santa, but he's got gray hair and a beard, but the hair is very stylish and cut and shaped in his beard, and he's got muscles, and he's older, but he's a zaddy. And I'm like, oh, they're capitalizing on that. But if you know you're a zaddy and you're putting it out there, just be honest, and then you do you.
No, that's what you're doing, and then we won't begrudge you. As long as you are honest to what you're doing, we won't begrudge you.
Yeah. That guy in that ad, typically, he knows he doesn't look like Santa. You're not fooling us. You know why you're there.